6:30, conservation meeting for Tuesday, November 7th, 2023 at 6:30 PM at the McDonald Brown Conference Room is now open. And I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes for October 17th.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. And then there's a new public hearing, which is 1 Pine Tree Drive. I'll read that in. Under the Wetlands Protection Act, Chapter 131, Section 40 MGL, as amended, the West Bridgewater Wetlands Protection Bylaw and Rules and Regulations, the Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on November 7th, 2023 at 6:30 PM in the McDonald Brown Conference Room, 65 North Main Street, on a request of determination applicability at 1 Pine Tree Drive for a septic system upgrade. Okay,
Peter, can you hear us?
Good evening, everybody. Yeah, I hear you. Just shuffling my screen around. I can pull up the plans to share for us.
Yep.
If you can confirm that we can see that.
Yep.
All right. For the record, Peter Lyons with Collins Civil Engineering Group. This is a RDA for a repair of a failed residential septic system. This is a 5-bedroom home. It's 1 Pine Tree Drive. Quick overview of the property. It's about a half-acre lot on the southern edge of Pine Tree Drive. On the right side, we have a drainage easement from the road. So we got some catch basins which go to a manhole, and then an underground pipe to a head wall. A wet drainage basin delineated by flags 1 through 3. Basically with this one, we're removing and replacing the existing septic tank and leaching components in the back of the house. This is an existing lawn area previously disturbed. Pretty straightforward septic repair. There will be I would say no, but let's say very minimal changes in grading on the eastern portion of the leaching field. Looks like it's coming up about a half a foot. Other than that, the area is existing lawn, going to be returned to loam and seeded condition after the project. Access is going to be from the paved driveway. We've proposed erosion control starting at the end of the driveway and surrounding the project on the down gradient side of the leaching field with our erosion control. We have our pretty standard notes on the left side of the plan. I won't read them all, but it's basically keeping the site clean and stabilized until it's regrown. We propose silt sacks in the catch basins up at the street to prevent any sediment from making its way into the drainage system. That's pretty much it. Any questions from the commission on this one?
so being an upgrade, is it being sold?
I believe it is for sale, yes.
Okay, how old is the house?
The system is in failure.
How old is the house?
How old is the house? Offhand, I do not have that information on me.
Okay.
I can't even tell Peter from here, are there wetland lines there or not?
There is, just with the drainage basin right here. So we have a couple of flags shown as the top of bank for the stormwater basin. And that's the extent of the resource on the property.
And that's the actual wetland line.
It was kind of a man-made wetland line from the drainage easement for the subdivision when it got built. They drained it out to that area.
So I was
so-
wondering
Right.
how old it was.
Yeah, it's been established for a while.
Well, again, determination, everything comes here. anyway.
Right, they're not going into that area.
Yeah.
So, yeah. The only question I have, Peter, because it didn't appear on this plan, you normally have under your wetland and erosion control notes, number 5 is a 2-day notification before construction starts.
Okay.
If you could make that note change, and I'll put it as one of the conditions on it, just so I can check the erosion control and make sure it's there. It's on all the other plans, it just missed this one.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just reading through them quick. I don't see that exact wording. It asks the contractor to provide, their contact with the commission.
Yeah, what you normally do is have the Conservation Commission must be contacted a minimum of 2 business days in advance for erosion control and other applicable inspections.
Okay.
So there's not really much, you're just gonna take it out, put a new one in, and then just reseed it and let it go at that, right?
Yeah, correct. It'll probably be about a week worth of construction and disturbance. And then, at this point, we're not gonna be, growing any grass until the spring, but the erosion control will remain in place until the site has been, considered stabilized, which will occur in the spring at this point.
Okay, anybody else?
I'm all set.
Okay, so entertain a motion to, close the hearing.
Motion to close?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Entertain a motion to issue a -3 determination with conditions.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All set. Thank you.
He's up for the next couple.
For you.
Couple more, okay.
Well,
Here's the
coming
next
up
one.
on 132.
Which is the next one? Okay. So the next one is 132 Brooks Place. I'll read this one in. Under the Wetlands Protection Act, Chapter 131, Section 40 MGL, as amended, the West Bridgewater Wetlands Protection Bylaws and Rules and Regulations, the West Bridgewater Comprehensive Stormwater Management Regulations, the Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on November 7th, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. in the McDonald Brown Conference Room, 65 North Main Street, on a notice of intent at 132 Brooks Place for a septic system upgrade. Okay, all set.
Just confirm we can see the plan again. For the record, Peter Lyons again, Collin Civil Engineering, representing the owner at 132 Brooks Place. This is a notice of intent relative to the repair of a failed residential septic system. This site's a little tighter than the last one. It is less than a half-acre lot with wetlands cutting through the back of the site. Wetland flags 1 through 13 are shown by the bold green line. The 50-foot buffer is shown in orange, and the 100-foot buffer is purple. Pretty much nowhere out of this site is outside of jurisdiction. We did try a test hole in the front yard, shown by observation hole 1. We encountered unsuitable materials, poor soil conditions, which forced us into the back of the property. Basically with this one, we're looking to remove and replace the existing leaching pits, provide a new 1,500 gallon septic tank to a gravity fed pipe and stone leaching field. Due to the tightness of the site, we are just outside the 50-foot buffer. We're able to maintain 52 feet from wetland flag 11 to the closest corner of the leaching field. And the septic tank is 1 feet from the resource area. The bold red line indicates our proposed erosion control limit of work, basically surrounding the whole property, including the site access to the western portion of the house. There will be some grading changes where the tank and the western edge of the field are coming up about 2 to 3 feet above existing grade. No real impacts to the existing drainage patterns. Everything flows towards the wetlands currently, and that's the way it's going to remain. This is all occurring in an existing lawn area, which is previously disturbed. We are proposing conservation posts in 5 locations pretty much at the existing tree line around the property. Those are, the standard conservation sign, which we have a detail for on the plan. Let's see, our standard notes here, which include notifying the Conservation Commission 2 business days prior for erosion control inspections. Let's see, that's kind of my quick rundown. If the commission has any questions, I'll take them at this time. Thank you.
So now this one's just failed. Is it gonna be sold too, or no?
Yes.
It is gonna be sold?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
So those markers are right on the wetland line, is that from what I can see from here?
Some of them are exactly on the wetland line. It's all previously disclosed lawn area. I did make a site visit. The house looks unoccupied at this time.
How old is Brooks Place? Not that old, is it?
No, that old,
That's old, yeah.
there's been a lot of development
I'm
off
thinking
of
like-
it.
That's got test, those are what, that's, it's not even a system. It's,
Oh,
Leaching.
okay. Yeah,
that's an old one.
I understand.
Only comment I have for this was, I would make a suggestion that we add a marker between wetland flags 6 and 7. On the site visit, that area is all grass going literally right into the wetland. It looks like they've been putting all their yard debris and everything right into it. And
So they'll stop.
yeah, and if it's being sold and a new property owner's going in, that access point right through,
Right in the
that would be the
back.
time.
Right, could you show us where that you're
Yeah,
talking
I
about?
agree.
Yeah, it would be right here.
Okay.
If you want, I do have some pictures I can share. But that would be my only suggestion. Everything else looks good.
Not much you can do about it anyways. It's previously disturbed and
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, the rest of it's
not the.
all
so
on, but that, where the markers are going in now would be the time to. make-
theoretically, I think I've asked this before, but on previously disturbed, we could say that's fine, but we're changing it, we're moving it back to.
You could, yeah.
We tend-
Normally, I
we
wouldn't
tend to
have a
say-
problem with this one, except the fact that there's so much leaf debris and lawn debris that's being piled right into the wetland, that any new homeowner is just gonna do the same thing and take and just
Yeah.
Yeah,
push it
but
right
you know
in.
what I'm saying?
Yeah, we can change it if we, yeah,
We could if we wanted to, but since it's previously
it's-
disturbed, you let it go.
yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
and hopefully they don't add to it,
Okay.
so. Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
Motion to close?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Oh, Steve is here.
Entertain a motion to order a standard order of conditions.
I'll make that motion with the additional post.
Yeah, with the additional one post at markers, or whatever it is, 6 or whatever it is. Do I hear a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll entertain a motion to grant a waiver to work in the 50-foot buffer.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
And quick question on that one for you. Do you need revised plans showing that, or is that something we can lay out in the field and pick up on an as-built?
You can do it as an as-built.
Yeah.
I'll make a note of it in the order of conditions so that we'll have it recorded. But yeah, there's no,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can stake and flag a new location and just
Yeah.
whoever the contractor is, we'll let them know that an additional one needs to be installed there.
Thank you. All right, the next one is 275 Crescent Street. I'll read this one in. Under the Wetlands Protection Act, Chapter 131, Section 40 MGL, as amended the West Bridgewater Wetlands Protection Bylaw and Rules and Regulations, and the West Bridgewater Comprehensive Stormwater Management Regulations, the Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on November 7th, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. in the McDonald Brown Conference Room, 65 North Main Street, on a notice of intent at 275 Crescent Street for a septic system upgrade. Okay, all set.
That's me again, yep. Let me pull up the plan. Right we should be able to see it. For the record, again, Peter Lyons Collins Civil Engineering Group, representing the homeowner, 275 Bresson Street. This is an existing 4-bedroom home. The system is in failure. I do not believe there's any transactions associated with this. The client is staying there, to my knowledge. Site's a little bigger. We have 56,000 square feet, surrounded to the west and to the north by wetlands, shown by flags 1 through 20. The 50-foot buffer is shown by orange, and the 100-foot BBW buffer is shown by the purple line here. Basically, this site, we encountered very high groundwater and pretty poor soils, resulting in a pump system and a pretty large leaching field, a large elevated leaching bed. Basically, we're decommissioning, pump and fill the existing septic tank to the north of the house and abandoning the existing leaching field, which does go into the tree line. That will just be abandoned in place. We're providing new plumbing to a 1,500-gallon septic tank, 1,000-gallon pump chamber, and then, as mentioned, an elevated 28 by 29 leaching bed of plastic leaching chambers. This is coming up about 3 to 3.5 feet above existing grade over the leaching field, and minimal grade change, a foot or less over the proposed tanks. This is all occurring in the existing lawn area. You can see the tree line shown pretty much parallels or offsets the property lines. We have proposed conservation markers along the existing tree line in 9 locations as shown on the plan. So those wrap around the entire site on the existing tree line. The limit of work is defined as the bold red line here, encompassing the entire excavation area as well as the site access, which will occur through the driveway. We've also shown some caution tape, a work limit along the southern line, just to make sure everything happens within our property limits. Soil stockpile area is shown just inside the 100-foot buffer. Dewatering pit location is shown between the septic tanks and the proposed leaching field. We have details shown for the dewatering pit on the plan. All of our standard conservation notes with this one are also mentioned. If I can get there, it should include, the 2-day notification for the commission for the erosion control inspection. So that's what we got here. Any questions on this one from the commission?
Peter, I'm just wondering, I got a question. The plastic leaching field that you've made, that's because it's the high water?
Could you say that again? You cut out on me.
The plastic leaching field.
Yeah.
And is that different than what you usually do because of the high water?
It's not so much the high water. The plastic leaching chambers allow us to minimize the footprint of the leaching field. So this would be 20-30% longer if it were a traditional, we'll call it pipe and stone design. We did originally do a pipe and stone estimate on this, and the construction cost came out significantly higher. So this has been redesigned and tweaked a few times to take the cost into consideration. So no, nothing to do with the high water. It's more the poor soil conditions would result in a pretty large leaching field, and by going with the plastic chambers allows us to shrink the footprint of that quite substantially. That also maximizes our distance to the wetland. Right now we're 113 feet away. With the traditional pipe and stone, we would have been something like 100 feet away.
If you did the pipe and stone, you would have had a lot less was it 2 to 3 feet? You said this one was gonna rise up?
It wouldn't be really any difference in height. It would just be a length thing. But
Okay.
yeah, I mean, ultimately, sure, the grading over the system would stretch back further to the wetlands. It wouldn't get any higher. The mound would just become longer with a pipe and stone design.
Okay.
Peter, I also wonder about plastic. Is it leaching anything in like PFAS or anything like that into the soils?
No, I mean, the plastics, are generally accepted and approved design. We kind of use them interchangeably. It's, I don't know if you're not familiar with it, it's essentially like a half of a barrel. So, the stuff that comes into the leaching field goes into like a tunnel. The bottom of it would be the sand bed, and the top of it is like a domed, plastic panel. So nothing's, no plastics are, leaching into the resource area or anything.
Thank you.
Now, is this house being sold too?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay. Any more questions?
And I've done the site visit already, and they're mostly outside the 50-foot for the construction. Just the decommissioning area would be inside it.
There were no posts before?
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to close the hearing.
Motion to close?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Entertain a motion. Entertain a motion to order standard orders, conditions.
So moved?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll entertain a motion to grant a waiver to work in the 50-foot buffer.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
All right, I think that's all I have for you.
thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Okay, so the next one we got is 686 Manley Street, so I'll read this one in. Under the Wetlands Protection Act, Chapter 131, Section 40 MGL, as amended, the West Bridgewater Wetlands Protection Bylaw and rules and regulations, and the West Bridgewater Comprehensive Stormwater Management Regulations, the Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on November 7th, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. in the McDonald Brown Conference Room at 65 North Main Street on a notice of intent at 686 Manley Street for proposed site construction of a commercial building with associated grading, utilities, and site work, including fill of 4,900 square feet of the BVW. Okay, all set.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Scott Carey, from engineering, representing MJM Construction. What we have before you tonight is a site plan at 686 Manley Street. It's the property on Manley Street just over the city line with Brockton right next to the post office on Liberty Street. We were before you folks back in July and August for a abbreviated notice of resource area delineation. And based on our meetings and site visits with your agent, the wetlands line shown on this plan is the approved wetlands line. So what we're proposing is a 60 by 100 foot building, fairly close to the street and tucked into the corner nearest the post office, with a parking area around the building. We have a series of drainage improvements that we're doing both on site and to handle the drainage on Manley Street. One thing that we talked about a little back in the summertime was the drainage ditch right off of Manley Street, the head wall that feeds into the drainage ditch and the condition of that ditch. And at the time, the applicant had done a whole bunch of cleaning in that area. We took out dumpsters full of trash and debris that had been dumped there. And and Manny also did some clearing of the vegetation. If you remember, the vegetation was really overrun with invasive species. There was just a lot of briar and the Japanese knotweed, and it was really choking things out. So Manny did the cleaning and the clearing as part of that, his routine maintenance of that drainage ditch. Now, we discussed it a little bit back then, but our drainage design, in addition to handling the runoff from our site, one thing we're really trying to do was to get the runoff from Manley Street into our drainage system. As you know, for the vast majority of Manley Street on our side, there's no curbing at all. There's a series of catch basins and manholes. So the majority of the site, the Manley Street just runs off the road onto the private property, mostly our property up and down the street. So in this situation, from Liberty Street, the water heading up from West Chestnut to Liberty Street is captured into the post office property. But from the post office entrance down to the head wall, and then from the head wall, it's about another 1,400 feet to the high point in Manley Street. So that entire 1,800 feet of Manley Street is all draining towards this head wall. So we've captured as much of that as we could. We have a grass swale proposed on our property that will catch all the runoff from Manley Street. If I flip the page, it will show it a little bit better. We have a series of stone check dams to also aid in the cleansing of the water, of the runoff off of Manley Street. So we have a riprap swale catching it, a stone check dam. It's a grass swale, which is another best management practice from DEP stormwater management guidelines. And then it's captured into a catch basin, which goes into a water quality tank and then into our infiltration system. So for the entire site, including Manley Street and our site, we've got a whole bunch of best management practices that we propose. We have a bioretention basin in the back. We have the stormwater quality units. We have 2 of those stormwater quality units. We have a level spreader around the perimeter of a gravel parking area. We have the grass swale and the check dams. So, we really feel like we're doing a great deal here for the environment and the existing drainage that's running off into that wetland system. As part of our project, we are proposing to fill 4,800 square feet of wetlands right here in the front associated with that drainage ditch. We have a 7,500 square foot replication area proposed on a large upland area in the back of our property as mitigation. I think that really gives you a quick rundown of what we're looking to do. I'm sure we submitted everything to the agent a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, maybe. We got a quote for the peer review. We just paid that at the end of last week, so I know we'll have plenty of comments from the peer review agent, particularly with the drainage calculations and things like that. But we haven't even begun with that yet. So we're really figuring, even though we didn't have that review yet, we at least come tonight, kind of introduce the project, get your thoughts, on your first glance, and I'm sure we'll be back a couple times with some changes, I'm sure. So any questions or input you'd have, we'd love to hear it at this point.
I'd like to, when we get to it, see the mitigation plan. And
Yep, we did submit that. I can show it to you, but we do have the wetlands replication plan by ECR Consultants. Again, it's a 7,500 square feet, so even though DEP requires a 1-to-1 ratio, we did a 1.5 to 1. So it's tucked in the back. There's kind of a large upland area between the post office and in the back of our wetland area. So we've come up with a 7,500 square foot area there. I think it's your typical replication plan. Nothing earth shattering, high bush blueberries, swamp azaleas, things like that, sweet pepper bush, to kind of fill that in there. One other thing that we're proposing also is some buffer zone enhancements between the wetland and our limit of work in the previously disturbed area. So we've got some buffer zone enhancement plantings that we're putting there that'll provide both a kind of a natural buffer towards the wetland, but also give some, the vegetation and some wildlife habitat there as well.
So that 4,500 square feet that you gotta fill in the front.
Yep.
That's gotta be done in order for this project to be able to be successful and.
Exactly. In order to get access to the property, clearance around the building, meeting the zoning setbacks. The zoning setback is 50 feet to the front yard, so we've got the building right at, I think we're at 51 feet. So once we do that, the back of the building pretty much touches that wetland area. That kind of fingers out to the front. So the filling allows us not only to place the building there, to have clearance around the building, and also to have fire truck access and access around all sides of the building.
I know the state says they usually will be okay with a 1-to-1
Yep.
replication, but we would kindly like to see about like a 2-to-1.
We did 1.5 to 1. We could, if that's
Squeeze in there.
another 2,000 square feet. He's got, there's enough upland area. We could get
Is
another
it?
couple thousand square feet and increase the plantings there.
And
we
then
can make that happen.
the front there on the 1,800 square feet, you figure that's the water that runs down the road.
The 1,800 linear feet.
Yeah. How many gallons of water do you think that would, if you had a good rainstorm? I mean,
I don't know, but
it's hard to tell. I
Yeah,
understand, but it's
we've
just.
got I've got the numbers in the drainage calcs for both a
Mhm.
10-year storm and a 100-year storm, because the pipes are designed for a 10-year storm. The drainage areas themselves are designed for a 100-year storm. So we
That are
do
there already?
Yeah, so
Okay.
we do the calculations on both storms, so I could get you that number for the next meeting.
And we'd like to be for the 100-year
Yes.
storm.
Yep.
And that would take care of basically everything that would go down in there and
Everything that's
flush
going
out.
there, and even for a major, well, really for that entire 1,800 feet, on this side of Manley Street, across from our site, there is granite curbing and a
Mhm.
sidewalk, but there's catch basins there as
Yeah.
well that tie into our property. So
Yeah.
we're really catching, even though we don't have curbing, we're catching the entire width of Manley Street onto our property.
Would you
So
put a berm up or no?
we're not having a berm at all, so we can catch it
So
into
you can
that
catch
grass
it, yeah.
swale.
Okay.
Yeah, the grass swale just gives it another chance to
Mhm.
kind of naturally filter out and recharge the groundwater, as opposed to having a series of catch basins and manholes and pipes that way.
So the catch basins across the street are going into that property?
All the way
Yeah,
down the
trying
street,
to know.
everything, there's a series of manholes almost down the center of the road, and they dump into that culvert right on our property.
So being
So
that-
How
between
they
the
do- how'd they
rainwater
do
that's coming off
that?
the road that's not pre-treated.
Yeah.
Everybody did it, back in the day. I'm
It's-
sure it's
it's
50
old.
years old, 100
It's
years
old,
old.
yeah.
Right,
yeah,
so
yeah.
everybody did it. It was old land that
You
nobody
you
cared
wouldn't
about.
today.
Yeah, you'd have a hard time dumping it on your property today, but back in the day, nobody cared. And, of course, over time, it's now turned into a wetland that, that greatly limits what you can do on the property, but it is what it is at this
So,
point.
well, sounds like a great improvement for that,
Thank you.
that
We did.
property, yeah.
We did spend a lot of time thinking about it. Mandy's had a lot of input with your agent on, what to do and how to improve the whole situation. So
Right.
I think we've come up with a pretty good plan.
it's such a big scale of this.
The-
Would a 53G would have to.
Right, I would recommend 53G review, especially for the stormwater calcs. The only question I'm gonna throw out, because I've spent a little time after the last couple of weeks looking at it, the area that says Lot A,
Yes.
it's gonna be a proposed gravel parking storage area.
Yep.
Where's the 50-foot line on that parcel? Only because that's not theoretically been previously disturbed area.
Yep.
And I just wanna make sure we know where we're.
Yep, the 50-foot line is the red line that's shown in through here.
And so your proposed work would go up to the wetland line?
Up to the 50 on the north side, and up to, the closest were probably 15 feet, and then just about at the 50 as you get a little further down.
So just
Have to
wanna
be
outside.
clearly marked.
Right, I just wanna make sure the commission understands where the work in that gravel parking area would end up being.
So now we know where it is. You guys know where it is too.
Yep.
That's good.
And north of that, and where near the mitigation area, you said that
Yep.
was uplands.
Yep.
Is that all uplands from there to
There's-
the building, or it's spotty?
No, it's basically an upland island between if you go way in the back of the post office, they have some tractor trailers parked back there. If you just look to the left of it, you can see a little bit of an upland grove. It definitely looks different than the rest of the property. So there's probably, I'm gonna guess maybe a 20,000 square foot, maybe a little bit more, but about a 20,000 square foot
Access
upland
is an
area.
issue though.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be
Yeah.
hard to get to without cutting across the post office property.
In that upland area out back there, that's basically kind of a separate piece of property. Nothing's gonna be touched with that in the future?
It's pretty isolated. To
Yeah.
get to
Yeah,
it is,
yeah,
you're gonna have a wetland crossing way more than,
Yeah, you'd have a.
But I just kinda wanna hear, like,
Yeah.
nothing's gonna
Yeah,
be
no, you'd
basically
have-
gonna be untouched.
Yeah, you'd have a 300-foot
Okay.
wetland crossing to get to it,
Yep.
to be able to use it permanently, so, right. We're gonna have to get to it to do the replication, but at that point, it'll just be weaving your way through the trees, so,
Mhm.
yeah.
All right.
there will be, I believe, ZBA and planning board review as well, so.
Yep, we have ZBA coming up, at their meeting in December for a special permit. And then, as I said earlier, we, flipped the dice and figured you guys were the most difficult board, so we went to you guys first, so we're holding planning board till after you guys, so.
And then we'll hear what the 53G has
Yeah.
to say and
In
all
the
that stuff.
replication area, is there invasive plants there now?
No, actually, it's surprising. Right now, there really isn't there. It's really associated with the brook and, I think essentially getting all the dirty water from the road, just kind of fed all of those invasive plants. But up in the back there, it's kind of a clean area, really. A little bit open and it's.
How are you going to get to it without crossing?
Most of the replication work, we'll just have to weave our way through with small equipment. It's not heavily wooded, so we're not gonna have to do any clearing to get there. Honestly, I think most of the work would be with a small bobcat to get back there. Yeah.
It's not a huge elevation change. really
Right, it
either.
doesn't, it raises up a little bit, but not there's not gonna be a lot of excavation that we need to do.
And if there's any kind of rutting or anything like that, after you're done, you'll
We'll repair it on the way.
repair it and all that.
Yep.
and all that.
Yep, certainly.
Okay.
Okay, that's what we'll just. All right, so I'll entertain a motion to hire 53G to look at it.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I guess we'll just I'll entertain a motion to continue to.
You wanna go 2 weeks to the 21st?
If we could, if I
Okay,
can't
nope,
make it, I'll
that's-
certainly let you
yep.
know ahead of time, but why don't we shoot for the 21st?
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to continue to 11/21.
53G will be
Hopefully before.
done by then, you think?
Probably at least one review we should
Good.
have in by then.
I'll
And
make-
if not, it's just
I'll make that motion.
Second.
all in favor.
Aye.
Okay, folks.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Good night.
much.
Okay, the next one we have is continued public hearing for 44 South Main Street. For the notice.
We're in the process of working through the 53G review, so recommending to
It's a
continue that.
complicated property.
21st.
Yeah, it's a big one,
I mean, as Scott was saying, most of the time DEP gives you a number right away. This one still hasn't been assigned a DEP number.
Mm.
And I mean, we're
Complicated.
going into what, 9 months since this hearing opened?
Wow.
Is it that complicated?
Well,
Are
it's
there
right on the riverfront.
objections?
Well, no,
There's
I
so much
understand,
floodplain involved.
But I mean, it's
that
9 months for that
I
being
think
that
that's what's
We
holding
have
it up.
some
is-
objections in the area and
Oh,
Yeah.
The Army Corps of Engineers, I'm sure, is having a say and delay in it, and that's why. the
or
state
they
has-
just can't get to it. Right.
How long before it's not good anymore? In terms
We haven't
of-
issued anything yet, so as long as they keep requesting a continuance,
Yep.
we can.
Okay, all right.
If we wish, we could table it and deny it for a lack of information and then have them come back and file again, but
no, they're just
they're
waiting.
trying to
Yeah.
move it forward.
All right, so I'll entertain a motion to continue to November 21st.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. And next one is 560 Walnut Street, AKA Beating Place. And
I think we have some
Assistant
potential.
representatives here. We have a few slides, and I didn't know if I should hand it to you to present.
Yep, I can
or
do that.
I should present.
Yep.
Okay, great. be a PDF, or sorry, a PowerPoint, file on there.
So why do they call it Beating Place?
I was gonna ask.
Any reasons?
That seems to be the name. So you can see there's a road that's cut through the trees. That was the name that was assigned to that private road. I don't know why or where that came from.
561 is the official
Yeah.
address.
So this is for what? Going to,
Yeah.
what's the location? What's it for? I mean, is it a sign?
They're looking to do an ANRAD to set the wetland line. And they
Okay,
contacted me in the office looking for some history and information regarding the cell tower area or the
Cell
radio
tower.
towers that were there at some point. And so they're here to find out what the commission feels is jurisdictional and give us some history on what they found for the towers, I believe.
So the
Yeah,
towers
so-
are gone, there's no towers here?
Yeah, it's just a big open field now.
And I guess so Laura is our wetland scientist. She'll provide a little bit of a presentation. Before we jump into that, we'll introduce ourselves. So my name is Brittany Gessner. I'm a civil engineer with VHB. We are looking at this site on behalf of a potential buyer. So this is in due diligence of figuring out what is on the site. We're aware that there are a lot of wetlands throughout the site, and if this project proceeds, we will spend a lot of time with you guys. But there's one area in particular that Laura's gonna walk us through that it's unique because it's man-made, and so we wanna understand we wanna explain our understanding of it, see if you concur with our understanding before the project proceeds. So we're not at liberty to share what the project may be, but this is really in a due diligence effort to see the project will proceed if we're all potentially on the same page with this one area.
is this man-made wetland area recorded?
Potential man-made stormwater area, and I'll pass it off to Laura, she can walk us
Take
through
a
it.
look.
Okay.
But just a little bit of background
Yeah.
that we're here hopefully in potential of a new larger project. But this is a gating issue from a due diligence perspective.
And what's the zoning area?
Industrial.
It's industrial.
Industrial, okay, so it's gonna be for something figure,
Potentially something.
potentially
industrial commercial.
something that commercial, yeah, okay.
So, I'll pass it off to Laura.
Yeah. Well, so as we mentioned, there were 2 radio towers that were on the site. And this is an image from when they were still on the site. So we're going to look at the next slide that shows that same area where the towers were, but current imagery. So you can see that it's mowed currently. And it has actually, if you look at the broader site, you see that there's a lot of wetlands. Those are sort of the yellow areas, and that's just the DEP mapping. But around this particular weird circular area is a ditch, and I suspect it was made to drain the area from where the towers were, just to allow constant access to them. And so if you go to the next slide, we're going to zoom into that particular area. And the green hatching there is the outline of the ditch. And it's, for lack of a better term, it's probably 3 to 5 feet wide.
All around. All around.
All the way around. Yep. And the next slide shows the topography of the area. I know it's a little light. Apologize, but you can see how also on the east side there it's really steep, and that actually has sort of like a riprap slope leading down to this area. So very clearly constructed is my takeaway from that. If you go to the next slide, we've just taken some pictures of it. And you can see, so on the top left picture, that's the riprap slope. So at this point, there are trees growing in it. On the bottom left, that's a typical look at the width of the ditch. On the other ones, you can just see that it appears like there are some maybe ATV access or mower access. So there's like traversing the ditch that goes on to get to the grass area, and I guess makeshift paths kind of thing. And so we went out, we looked at this area, we had a meeting with Tim, we talked about it. And since that time, we actually got information from the owner who claims that during the transfer of the property from the previous owner to the current owner, that ownership transfer happened in 1996, and that the ditch was actually constructed after that. So this is what we're sort of basing our information on at this point, because I don't have anything to counteract that, I guess, per se. If that's the case, what that would mean is this Massachusetts stormwater stormwater policy was written in 1996. So if it was a constructed basin after 1996, it would be non-jurisdictional. So if we go based on the ownership's information, then we would call it non-jurisdictional. But we didn't want to go forward here without it talking to you and seeing if you agree with that, because obviously if, this is a weird feature, but to utilize any of that open area, you'd have to cross or fill part of that ditch, and that would have implications for a future project, potentially making it not usable, like not undevelopable.
Does it drain anywhere?
Yeah,
Or
so
does it drain
it
to the ground?
seems to, like, it's very still. However, on the southeast side, there is a culvert over there, and it does appear to drain off site. So it makes me think that they might have connected to something that was already there. I don't know how old the culvert is, but I would say it drains, yes. There's a connection.
And right there where it goes in the middle, that middle picture,
Yep.
where it goes into the green, is that like is there a pipe underneath it?
No, it's like really muddy, like it's definitely wetland, right where the tracks
So
go.
it's just basically kind of like going where the,
Like a cart path that goes
Yep.
into.
so it's not like the two next to them, the
It's not a deep
ditches.
impression.
True. So there are parts where it's wetter
Mm-hmm.
than there, and I think that's strategic. Like they probably chose a part to make their access that wasn't as deep, right? But yeah, regardless, it goes all the way around.
What was your comment about the date on jurisdictional versus non?
Yeah, so any constructed stormwater feature that was built after 1996 is outside jurisdiction.
After 1996?
That's right.
Outside jurisdiction?
That's right. That's in the Wetlands Protection Act.
I
But
would think it'd be the other way, before.
Yeah.
No?
well, that's what's interesting. So if it's before, we have a lot of these features. They were constructed a long time ago. Now they have wetland vegetation because they weren't maintained, and it
They
overgrown.
become wetlands.
Exactly. So you do have the right to take jurisdiction.
So that's kind of like the one that we were just, not to interrupt, but the one that we were just doing beforehand along Manley Street, where you want that drainage ditch that came off the road, it's just overgrown.
Yeah.
And it is,
Right.
To us,
This is a
it-
similar situation, except we have no record that the ditch was permitted or allowed or made or
Exactly,
constructed or
yeah.
engineered. It just appeared.
Exactly.
And
so there is no record of it?
there isn't, I've gone through everything we have in our files, and I can't see any permit or application or anything where it was constructed or engineered or designed. seems like somebody just went in there and dug a ditch. When the riprap was put in, again, I don't know, was that the same time to help stabilize the bank that they were digging into or not? I believe there's also on the north side a culvert that comes across the current road. And I'm not sure if that feeds into this ditch that goes around it and then exits the other side.
So it appears that this ditch, really all that's tributary to it is what flows to it. And then it seems like its intent was to keep, the radio towers dry. It's very clearly man-made and circular, whereas there's plenty of other wetlands, yes, and there's wetlands that are connected by the
Right.
culverts with the and those are wetlands. We plan to delineate them, ANRAD, but this is such a unique feature, and it's pretty impactful to what anybody could do with the site.
So just say if we just said, okay, no, don't worry about it. Go ahead, fill it in. And then if somebody came in to put a big building on it, would that have any effect with what they were gonna?
Well, whatever they do,
I mean, with the
development on
drainage?
the site is gonna have to be raised. They're gonna have to
True.
engineer stormwater to deal with that at some point.
True.
For whatever parking or building or structure goes
Mhm.
there. My
and
concern
this would be
is
assumed
if
in those
at
existing conditions.
some point, looking at the topography, the south and southeast corners, if you look at satellite imagery over the years, looks to be a wetter area than the rest of that large field.
Oh,
So this
So
kind of where
let
this
me
is.
go back. So
yeah.
the area here and along this side, if you look at some of the older satellite imagery in the spring especially and in the fall,
Yeah.
it looks like there may be ponding or puddling or water standing in those locations.
Yes.
So I'm sure that's why they probably dug the trench to drain it, but not knowing, without looking at what the soils might be in there, whether they're indicative that the wetlands may or may not have been, because it does look like it empties where that culvert is,
Yeah.
definitely down to the south. And that culvert, it's like a 24-inch culvert, it's pretty big.
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
It's built to move water. So whether this area here could have at one point been much wetter than it is now because of the ditch, it's changed. I mean, I'm gonna say if you stop mowing this field for 10 years, you're gonna see a significant uptick of wetland indicator plants taking over that
It's
field.
interesting, the
'Cause
towers
it's-
aren't there and they're still mowing it.
Right.
I know, that's the thing I was just
How
gonna
they
say.
can do
Just
it,
to
I don't
maintain-
know. but
Maybe that they were doing
it's-
this purposely because they didn't want this to happen. So they could eventually sell it and
If
try to,
if it's mowed, it's not got vegetation.
big
it's not gonna get
They're
vegetation.
still maintaining it,
yeah.
Is how
And it would
big is
just,
that
my
spot?
concern was where the wetlands, it indicates they're in the north. It looks like in this area here, there's a culvert or something that came under the road across, a pretty significant size, that would run and then drain this way would be my guess, unless it went originally and dumped it straight through the field. And that's why the field was wet and they had to dig this to get it from going across the field. And my concern would be the connectivity between the north and the south spots. Was it, because even this area here shows a wetland behind it, this is extremely wet in this area if you look at some of the imagery and standing water that's there.
So
Has
what?
it been delineated before? Because I didn't have any records that there were, but I did find on the 2007 plan, the circle was drawn and put on the plan as wetland plants and wetland indicator graphics. So I'm not sure
Yeah.
if it's,
I mean, I think that's the thing is that we have varying stories as to what, and there were flags out there when I walked for the wetland, like adjacent to it, which I would have thought meant that you might have a more recent filing or something
I
on
mean,
record.
we do
But
have
I
in
didn't.
the files a conceptual development plan for that, showing some industrial buildings on it. And that's the one that refers to it with the wetland ring around it. And they weren't potentially using that, they were creating other industrial buildings in other spots. So, but it really,
In keeping the ring as it is
as
and
it
not
is,
developing within
not
it.
developing the ring. But again, it was preliminary, it never went anywhere, it was just sitting in the file.
So quite honestly, there's not very much space left on the site. That's there's lots of wetlands throughout. So this, accessing that piece of upland in the middle is,
So, Tim, let me get this straight. What you're suggesting here is possibly that's a really big piece of wetland land.
It could be, I mean,
That if you.
my suggestion might be, and I don't know whether
How big is it?
you've looked at any of the soil to see,
So
What's
you're
actually-
right about the
more than an acre.
eastern
I
side.
mean, this area here, I think,
What-
has like 114, 115 foot elevation. So this area looks drier, looks more high. I'm thinking that they just dug the ditch all the way around it. Whether they really needed to dig the ditch over here, I don't know. They might not have. They probably had this culvert that came in and dug it around to drain it to get to the southern side where Mother Nature wanted to put the water. And
I wonder if it was filled at one time.
that's an awful lot of fill just for radio towers.
Oh,
So
I
my
mean,
guess is they probably didn't fill
maybe
it.
even before then, so.
Right, they could have leveled it
Yeah,
they probably-
more,
Or
but
pulled
I,
out the ditch and put it, kind of.
right, but I mean, the ditch isn't that big, so there's not a lot of fill coming out of the ditch. I
Okay.
mean, it doesn't look like it'd probably be more than 2 feet deep, 3 feet deep tops.
Right, yeah, agreed, yeah.
So
that's
it's not like you're gonna cover an area that big with all that fill. It really isn't a lot.
so the issue is, if it's determined that ditch is wetlands, you can't do anything.
Yeah,
I can
I
see
think
why, no, I
It,
can see
it,
why,
it
yeah.
significantly limits, and the project that we're hoping to proceed with probably will not proceed. It limits the development potential of this property.
So if we nail down the non-jurisdictional date, could determine,
And we have received an authorized letter from the seller indicating that the prior, and we've shared that with Tim, but there's a letter that says, and you're more familiar with it, but that the prior, the person that they bought it from, when they bought it, this ditch didn't exist, and when they sold it, it then existed.
Yeah, from what I've been able to find, it was like 1994. It kind of wasn't there. And then in a 97 plan, the preliminary one we found, it was.
So is the person
Well,
on the street, is he on that,
the
do you think
wetland
he's
was
still
there.
alive, or the person's
It
still
doesn't,
alive?
yeah, I mean,
I
it
don't know.
97 would be at the after the cutoff. The
Right.
jurisdiction.
The
So I
dates
don't-
are very close.
but
Yeah.
it's, when between 94 and 97 did this appear, and what was the reasoning for it, and, I mean,
Yeah.
it's probably always been mowed with the radio towers there. But was it
Those-
a
yeah.
wetland that got mowed to put the radio towers there? I can't tell you that. I don't know.
If they leveled it to purposely do
I
that.
mean, I can't find any satellite imagery or any aerial photos that are clear enough and sharp enough pre-90s to tell me what's there. So I can't,
Agreed.
So we're somewhere right on the cutoff.
So looking around the whole rest of the area, even there is wetlands blotches here and there, there really isn't, if you look on either side, there isn't too much wetland right there.
well, this area here, if you were to flag it, would probably be,
Yeah,
this area in here
because
looks,
of,
and it's pretty defined.
because of the
And then
drainage.
this is higher ground.
Yeah.
So it,
It's
somewhere
somewhere
in
the middle.
this area,
Well, you can see like even the bottom of that southern part is wetter than the top, so it must be like,
right, so- but I mean,
If this, it's still undetermined, is there a possibility of mitigating somewhere else on the site if we just can't agree?
Yeah, well, I think we're limited.
We're so close that maybe,
It's not that we couldn't create mitigation, it's
Yeah.
that we're limited to the 5,000 square foot limit. And that's just really hard to achieve, trying to build on this area and next to it.
So, under the state wetland act, we're limited to 5,000 square feet. This whole green area is approximately 10,000. I would say there's plenty of room and plenty of opportunity to provide mitigation.
That circle, that's what
yes,
we're really
we could-
interested in, is that
We
ditch.
could certainly commit to mitigation elsewhere on the property.
I
But
mean, I'm leaning that way only because there's so
But
much
if-
uncertainty.
But under the
Right.
state act, if this is a wetland, we can't fill 10,000 square feet of wetland. You know, if
So
this is a
the green-
stormwater
you think
feature,
the green could be wetland? Is
Right.
that what you're saying?
And that's what we're trying to
that's
figure
our
out.
concern. Is
So if I can.
Yep.
Possibly share this one. This is the conceptual plan that was found in the file. And
Okay.
they had 1, 2, 3, 4 warehouse type structures. Again, this is 97, pre a lot of the stormwater regs that are there now.
Yeah.
So considering that, some of this would not probably work at the site. But they did, in 97, have this, let me make sure it's, yeah, February 27th, 97 was the date of the plan. But it did show the ring, and it showed this area here that was, which is pretty defined, and if you look, even, it's probably larger than what shows on this plan. It does not show any connectivity to this little spur of wetland that, there's a drainage pipe that goes under the road, I believe, or exits that area, looking at some of the imagery. So, that's where I ran into trouble trying to figure out what and where it was connected to.
yeah.
Was this area here filled in when the road came and it blocked or stopped the connectivity, and that's why that culvert's there to bring it across.
And the state wouldn't have any say in this? Have an idea whether it's wetlands or not? Or is it they're leaving it up to the town? Jurisdiction on it?
Well, where there's nothing permitted
I mean,
and
that's-
nothing on it, the records are,
It's gonna have both
Right.
ends to.
I mean, my only suggestion might be is to take some soil samples and just see what the hydrology is there. And
You mean the mold,
in the mode area and find out,
I mean, it doesn't
If
look
it's-
like a wetland, but
right, but a lot of farm fields don't look like wetlands because
Yeah.
they were farm fields. This one doesn't look like it had crops, so it hasn't been plowed and harrowed and disturbed, it's just been mowed.
Even the trees growing up through the ditched area, are they wetland?
Yeah, there's a lot of,
Are they wetland,
It's you can see it's
hmm,
full of
yeah,
water.
it's,
they're considered, okay.
Mhm.
and
And
the
for
area's
what
been
it's
flagged in general, the whole area hasn't been flagged.
Not yet, because
Do
that's
you think that will change dramatically from what you think is there, or
so we
No.
walked it to determine
get a rough idea?
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So we didn't go through the effort of hanging flags because
Yeah.
on this site is going to be a massive
Yeah.
effort.
Right.
I
But
mean,
we-
as you can see, just on this one, when they did it for this is all wetland around this structure.
that structure
This is all
wetland too.
wetlands right here, potentially.
Yeah, so it is
And it
wetland.
doesn't match necessarily DEP's. If you look at DEP's imagery, there's little wetlands here, a little pocket over here, I think there's another one in here, and then down south. It doesn't really show this, which is definitely
And
wet.
that small building where you were just pointing, that's all wet. We're not playing. We can't do
Right,
anything.
so,
It's-
I
Like
mean-
this plan isn't viable.
Right, I
There's
mean-
wetlands all around it.
So do you think for now we should
Soils.
well, this is
pull
just,
soil samples?
yeah,
and
I mean, this
see,
is
or-
just giving them feedback so they know where to go or what they might be able to do.
Right.
I
And I guess we're just looking for concurrence that this appears to be a stormwater feature likely constructed after 1996. You know, therefore, this specific man-made piece is likely not a wetland under the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act.
That's how I'm looking at it right now.
But again, you get this little area, I mean, I can't, it's not a great plan necessarily for a wetland delineation plan, but if any of this north was connected, and because this went in, because it was probably the flattest area in the property, so it was the easiest place to work to put up 2 radio towers. You didn't have to clear a lot, you didn't have to level a lot, you didn't have to move a lot of soil, and they just anchored into the ground and built straight up. So between the culvert that's here, the culvert that's here, where does this, and why was it,
It's almost like if you
Yeah,
block
it
off those
just-
2 culverts, what would happen? Dry up,
It
you
would-
think?
no, it would probably hold water.
It would be like a pond area.
If you filled it right in, it would,
What would soil samples tell us?
It'll tell you the hydrology that's there, and if it's wetland soils, then they don't lie. I mean, it is what it is. It's,
Even after
When,
it's been
when would it have
disturbed.
been filled theoretically?
Well, you can-
like 50
depends on how
years
far you
ago,
go down.
or- I mean,
Down far, you can tell it's soil if it's been filled.
things that were done back then, are we,
right, I mean, if you should be able to tell in the top 18 inches what you're dealing with. This site, you're not gonna have to go down much further than that.
so
It's
is
not
that,
like you have to dig 20 feet
that an
down or
option,
10
you
feet down.
think, too?
It's-
Yeah,
Pursue.
no, we can,
I mean, that would be my suggestion.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
your suggestion is to understand the underlying soils in the grass part,
Right, and
to see if that appears to have been filled.
altered, or if it's because of the mowing, that it's all grass and not wetland vegetation. And I mean, there's a lot of areas that, in the upper areas that have much higher elevation that are wetter, appear to be wetter. But because this is so open, it doesn't appear to be as wet. But I bet if you walked out there now, there's pretty good puddles, I'm guessing, in that field. I mean, standing water kind of thing. So. is
well, at
it-
least that's a step in the direction of solving this, perhaps. Do the
It's
hydrological
definitely
samples.
Not a natural occurring ring. I mean, somebody put it there.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I think I could work around the ring, but it's the middle area that we're concerned about too. That could be filled wetland.
Is that ring drying out a wetland? I mean, I don't know why the ring, and especially where it's got the pipe at the top and the pipe at the bottom. If you just had the drainage pipe at the bottom, I'd say,
I think
okay,
it's
you just,
draining a
But
certain.
assume that's not wetland and we just get a ring around it. I mean, we could mitigate the ring
Yeah,
somewhere. If we had
Right,
to
and even
fill
if we
the
don't
ring.
call
We're
it
gonna have to-
mitigation, I'm
Yeah.
sure as part of the project, we'd be happy to expand some of the wetland areas on
you're
site.
gonna have to deal with that drainage problem for development no matter what.
Exactly.
Whether
There's
it's,
gonna be a lot of fill on the
Right.
site because we're gonna have to deal with stormwater and get everything up so things don't flood.
and I'm guessing the water table is,
I assume high. I assume like at grade.
it's almost like putting a building on a pond.
I
Right
mean,
next to
the
us.
structure that's currently there, the metal building,
Yeah.
is
Seems kind of weird. It's like people ask, you
probably
know,
5 feet.
how can you go and put a building on a house on a piece of property that you go down a foot and it's wetland, but you can build it up? It's almost like
It's an old building.
it's kind of
Well, it's
crazy.
a high water table, it's not
Yeah.
wetland.
Yeah.
That's,
I understand,
happening.
but still, it's just even still, it's like how can you do that?
or why would you wanna have a,
Well, it was the radio station building, right? The building you're talking about?
Oh
I think,
God, this
I
is.
don't know what it was built for. I mean, cause it's,
It's old. It's kind of like a garage.
Yeah, it's
It
more
has
like a
big
warehouse
shades.
type structure than-
Yeah, I don't, yeah.
When were the towers taken down? Do we even know that? But not that it matters, but
It was after 1995 because that imagery was 1995 with the towers on it, so
Yeah.
right
I
after
think in the
that.
early 2000s. My
Hmm.
memory serves me correct from looking at the imagery.
it seems to me, didn't we have a hearing several years ago where they wanted to start the radio station up again? Or was that in a different area?
Oh.
that was the emergency one on Manley Street.
It
On the-
was,
Yeah, that's
Okay.
the
that's
one that's
right,
down by the solar fields.
okay.
This is, let's see, is the 1991, let me see if I can bring that up, just to give you some reference. And so, this was another drainage plan from 1990 that was for a possible subdivision. And this one, I believe, was approved by the planning board. But again, it doesn't show the trench. It just shows the elevations
Yeah.
on it. And it's like 114 is here, 112 is here, 112 is here. And then there's a big slope. And was the slope already riprap? And was this a ditch already there? You can't tell from what's on this.
I know.
If they had finished the road development that was planned for here and did it all the way through, they might have captured some of that. But and there's nothing more detailed than this, other than just those rough elevations, which doesn't give us a lot to go on from 1990 to 97.
So
Because you
we're
just have-
suggesting we
Soil samples.
deal
See
with
what-
wetland scientists. So, I mean, when you walk,
I mean, at least would give you some comfort.
when you
know
walk
what
it,
you-
of course, it's been mowed and everything, but you see any, based on your own expertise, any sign that it was?
So
I guess once it's cleared and mowed, you don't know. It's hard to tell.
no, not, I mean, there were areas on the east side, like Tim was saying, where, you know, the ground feels spongy,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like you just walk in and you're like,
Yeah.
this is
It's
this is
yeah.
wet, yep.
It also
You
hasn't
feel
helped
that.
that we've had one of the reddest records on years on.
Exactly,
I mean,
though.
you had like
That's so
20 something,
true.
30 inches of
And
rain.
there's in
And
general a
we've got-
high water table in this area.
Mm-hmm.
And moved out over the summer when it was especially rainy. So yeah, but we can definitely
Let's do that. Yeah.
do a couple of works, check it out. Yeah.
But I guess, does this, depending on the outcome of that, does this seem like reasonable that this would be a stormwater structure that's?
Well, I think it's like if we find that there are wetland soils, then we're pretty much saying it's not a
Yeah.
stormwater feature. Is that what I'm
That
gathering
it
from the
wouldn't, that
commission?
it's
Yeah.
a
Okay.
moot point there at that point, yeah.
So
I
At that
think-
point, it'd be a drainage
Because you
feature to
can't-
drain the wetland and not a stormwater. If it's
Yeah.
stormwater, it's to
Yeah,
deal with.
yeah. And you're not gonna
Yeah.
mitigate that much space
Okay.
on that property anyways, so.
and then we would just have to look at and if there was an option to design with only 5,000 square feet or less of impact. So
Okay,
Yeah, that's the other thing. It's like everybody wants to come in. I'm not saying anything bad, but everybody wants to come in and squeeze everything in as tight as they can and much room as they can. But I'd rather see sometimes if you're gonna do something, put a little bit of a small. At least you can still utilize the space. Get a business in there or do whatever you gotta do, but just shrink it up. Even though it might not work out in the long run, but
yeah, this
Yeah.
is just such a weird feature to work around, with the design, right?
Mhm.
So that's where, I think that will be a challenge, and for the owner to sell.
Right, I mean, yeah.
We don't have a developable property.
Right.
When you do the soil samples, if you do that, where do you do it in that circle? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah.
So how many
yeah.
would we have to do in order to?
Well, I don't think you need to do very many, to be honest, because if I go out there
Nope.
and I do
I don't
five,
think so.
Yeah.
and they all have wetland soil,
Okay.
then
you know,
it's enough, right? I don't think we need to grid it.
Right, I mean, you could almost
One
just
up on top and one up on the
start at
bottom.
one side and go do a diagonal across
Yeah.
it, and you kind of have a rough idea of if it changes and where it changes and what you might end up with.
right. I mean, we'll work with you if in whatever's feasible, we will. I mean, we do it all the time. We don't like to just, shut projects down. That makes no sense either, so. Let's see how it comes out.
Okay.
Thank you for the time. We
Yeah.
really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Really helpful.
You're very welcome.
Hopefully this can move
Yeah.
forward. We can continue to work together. We want to
Mhm.
collaborate and we don't want to waste anyone's time. So that's why we wanted to come chat early
Right.
before we go too
We're
far.
amenable, as long as things make sense.
Excellent. Well,
Because
thank you. We
in
appreciate
in
it.
the end, when things are built in this town, it generates tax dollars, which
Creates
helps
jobs.
the town,
Yep.
so.
Yeah.
So you want a date? Do we need to?
No,
2
this is
weeks?
just an informal discussion.
Yeah.
There's
Oh,
nothing we need.
Yeah, I
to-
think
we
we'll
just
see how
wanted to
quickly
get
we
your
can-
reaction.
So they'll
of-
call and,
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll
you'll
just-
call them,
Yeah.
okay,
But I really appreciate all this conversation
no
because
problem.
I do think that sometimes, asking for an opinion, commissions are unwilling to do it without a formal filing and whatnot. And I just
No,
really appreciate
fine.
this because it's been really
Save
helpful.
I'd rather have you guys
Money and
or
time.
somebody come in here and
Yeah.
discuss this, and then go out there and say, "Oh, I did," we want to do something, and how come you didn't discuss it with us first?
Yeah.
So,
This is helpful. Thanks.
But you're right, I'm sure some boards
Mm-hmm.
insist on the formality of all kinds of stuff. But
All right, your time's up. Get out of here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys. We
kidding.
really, really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great to meet you.
Here's your thumb drive.
Oh, gosh.
Don't wanna leave that.
Okay, back over here.
Okay, so the next one is Scotland and Maple Streets for request of an extension permit for the orders and conditions. That's the, right here.
Okay, yeah.
So what's on with that one?
Okay, and that one, I'm not sure if Greg might be wanting to speak to it, but it is a, extension for the permit for the Cochise development. Their order of conditions, 3 years is has expired or is about to.
Mhm.
And they're just asking for another 3-year, extension for that permit.
It's
Hi
fine.
Tim, I just wanted to chime in. Amanda Langer here from JDE Civil. If you guys have any questions, both myself and Greg are here and available.
On this issue?
Yeah, for that one. if
I
you
don't
have
see any.
How's everything going?
Good. They're making great progress. I mean, of course, it takes time.
Yep.
But it's just it's constantly moving. We're doing foundation as-builds probably, every week to every other week. So they're making amazing progress over there.
It does look good over there. You guys seem to like you're doing a good job with not making a mess, I guess you can say.
Yes.
So
no,
everything
we're
looks like
trying to
it's being,
really be on top of that.
the detention areas, they're all looking like they're
Yeah, the
working the way it's
swales seem
supposed
to be working, everything.
I wanted to ask about that too, because I took a ride in there as I often do now, but there are fences around these houses, so you can't see the swales in the back,
Yes, but if you get to the very last one that isn't built and look under the
Can-
fence, you can see straight through.
Can you
so
see
it-
if people aren't
Right.
doing things in the swales?
I mean, occasionally I think there's been some trampolines and stuff put
That's what I mean.
in
yeah.
them, but not affecting them.
Okay,
I mean, they're not
Yeah,
filling
I
them
mean,
in,
I
they're
can
not
tell you
daming
what-
them up. They're still functioning.
yeah, that's the
Yeah,
key.
I'm in contact with the site contractor quite frequently, and he is there just about every day, and he makes sure that place stays as meticulous as possible.
And the houses are looking good, the ones that are there and lived
Yeah.
in are looking good, the neighborhood is starting to look good. And I go in there quite a bit, actually, to tell you the truth. I don't know about now it's getting darker, but everything looks
I
good.
know,
Well, it's
it's dark by
driven
lunchtime.
too
Yeah.
by market conditions.
True. Yeah, so I mean, I guess,
That and materials and supply
Yeah,
chain.
all of that,
Yeah.
all of that.
yeah, I mean, I have any kind of issues
No,
with
I
it.
have no problem. No.
You all set? So I guess I can entertain a motion to, issue the extension permit for the order of conditions.
3 years.
For 3 years
That'd be
8/10/26.
26.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you very much. Will we be picking that up from your office, Tim, to have it recorded, or will you mail it out to us?
If you want to pick it up, it'll be ready tomorrow morning.
Sounds good. We'll make sure someone's out there, okay?
Okay,
And I'll get that recording info as well.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Have a nice night.
You
too.
Have a good night.
Okay, the next one is 363 South Elm Street, the enforcement order failure to comply with Wetland Protection Act.
And I can give an update for this. The property owner has been trying to get in touch with an engineer. And the engineer that had done the original development that was there, father is elderly, has dementia, and he's been having to help take care of his father, so he's been tough to get a hold of. He did call me and explain the situation. He plans within the next few weeks to start working on a bunch of projects. This is one of a number of them that the same engineer has been requested to work on. So they all asked, just give us some time and we're gonna take care of it.
So does it have to be the same engineer?
It doesn't have to be, but he's already got all of the plans, all the paperwork, all the design, all the calculations.
To put it back to where it's
Right.
supposed to be?
Otherwise, you'll have to have another survey crew and
Okay.
hire another engineer, and they'll have to do all
Yeah,
the work. that's
And
already been-
nothing's changed over there, so.
Right, they're not doing anything more than's already been done,
Okay.
and so,
Parking cars there now.
right. I mean, it had already been filled, already been done, they're not seeding it, they're not grading it, they're not taking any more, they're not bringing more fill in, they're not completing what they were just, and we know that potentially, unless they're gonna file a notice of intent, it's gonna have to be repaired and
Yeah.
restored.
And he has no issues with that?
He'd like to have something stay there, so he may with his engineer apply for a notice of intent to do the work. And then it would be up to the commission whether it's allowed or not.
I wouldn't, it's up to them, but
Right, if they wanna spend the money to do that,
That's
my
right.
recommendation would be to them not to and
I
just
would too.
Yeah.
restore it to what it is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Cause,
But they have to do a restoration plan no matter what.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, just doing what he did, noticing, knowing
that there were wetland
the
markers
development
there.
was there when he was starting to build. He built it, it's been there for
Yeah, what are
a
these?
few years now.
What are these things?
The markers have been there, he
Yeah.
knew exactly what it was, he just took it in his own actions to do it, no. So, okay, so at least there's, some
Yeah, that's
stuff
just,
going on with that then. Okay. So that's,
463 North Elm Street is a request for certificate of compliance.
Yep.
This one goes back to 2003, septic
Wow.
repair that was done.
that's so
And
long.
the house is now, I believe, being sold.
Oh, that's
And
right.
they need to clear all of the old
Yeah.
title and paperwork and mess that's at the registry of deeds,
Mhm.
and there's an standing order of conditions, so they just wanna have us approve it. Everything's, I mean, it's 20 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything's established, everything's there, everything, they haven't done anything different than what they said they were going to.
Alright, so I'll entertain a motion to issue the certificate of compliance.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. 148 Bedford Street?
And that
Same
one
thing.
was the one that came in before us, that wanted to put a pool in, a few years ago. And the pool's in, everything's established, the markers are there, everything's done according to what they were supposed to. I have the as-built plan was submitted. So again, this one can be closed.
This is, you found these, right? Oh, just wondering what triggers.
Well, the first one was because they were selling.
Selling it, and this one was one that they just wanted to close because they knew they had to.
Okay.
It was- yeah.
Alright, so I'll entertain a motion to issue the certificate of compliance for 148 Bedford Street.
All right, I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And
Okay, and I
sign documents?
believe, and I want to give you an update on why we didn't have a public hearing for the stormwater bylaw regulation changes. Doing some research, going into our actual town's bylaw itself, and I need some direction from the commission. It states in it that the administrative stormwater permit we shall have the authority to develop regulations. And this is what it calls small, minimal, specific, site-specific projects, such as, but without limitation to, decks, porches, patios, retaining walls, existing driveway expansion, landscaping expansion, sheds, swimming pool, tennis, basketball courts, and septic system repair. Which would all be, is what the bylaw says, could be, if we wish to regulate it under the administrative permit, which is right now a $50 permit. However, the
Where?
regulations say 5,000 square feet.
Oh, yeah, we'll talk
But the
about this.
bylaw, the way it's written, gave some specific items that at that point the town wanted regulated.
But they have to exceed 5,000.
Right. In our regulations, once they were drafted after the bylaw was, we set a square foot limit, which most of these projects would never reach
Yeah,
5,000.
Exactly.
That's right.
So we're caught in between these really small projects, which are decks, pools, patios, driveway expansions, landscape in your yard projects, or 5,000 square feet.
Yeah.
So it's just where they had specifically cited these. Do you want to continue as we are and not reference any of these, or do we want to relook at?
I think the way things are going now with developments, how close they're getting to things, sheds, decks. I think we should have some kind of say, or be notified for it.
But it has to exceed 5,000 feet, though.
No,
Well, the regulations say 5,000.
Yeah, we
The
can-
regulations we can change, the
You
bylaw.
can
we-
supersede those regulations with a bylaw.
Well, the bylaws, this is just a recommendation
Yeah.
of ones, but they were recommended technically by the town because they approved the bylaw.
So 5,000 feet, what does that mean? Where? From what?
I mean, a 5,000 square feet is a large size
Yeah.
area. I mean, it's much bigger than,
it's like an addition on a house.
your house isn't even gonna be 5,000 square
No.
feet.
It's like 20, whatever, like a normal 2,000 square foot house.
Right, it's,
I mean, this thing,
So like none of these, the swimming pool?
none of
thing-
these would fall under the
Fall under
5,000
the
square.
But we could.
But we could.
and I think we should.
And
Those are the
town,
exceptions,
it's up,
yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't say landscape expansion,
Yeah.
but looking at some of these pools, patios, driveway expansions.
But even landscape could put in
Decks.
retaining walls.
Right, I mean, well, then it does say retaining walls,
Yeah, okay.
they're listed separate. It was just, once I started going back and looking at what they wanted an administrative stormwater permit to cover, we weren't capturing a lot of it. But do we need to, I mean, administratively for me, I'm gonna tell you, that's a lot of extra work
Yeah.
Okay.
that we may or may not need to or want to, but if you feel we should, and we wanna take a look at things like this,
Or should we just do the square footage down?
that could be another choice, that you take and
I think maybe that would
lower from 5,000 to
To 2,000.
2,000.
That's
I
more
think that-
reasonable.
And
I
think of the 2,000 or within so many feet of a catch basin
Yeah,
or a
true.
slope greater than 20%. So
Yeah.
it's, right now, the proposal is to keep it 5,000, but within 300 feet of a catch basin or stormwater structure, or a slope of greater than 20%.
So I think we should do 2, and then do the.
So if you lowered the square footage requirement,
How much more?
I mean, I will admit, some engineers are applying for an administrative stormwater permit with every septic system they do, no matter what.
Just
Even though it doesn't hit the 5,000 square
To
foot mark.
cover them.
But they just are doing it as standard operating
Mhm.
practice. Most septic system repairs are gonna probably be around the 2,000 square foot
right.
disturbance by the
Right.
time you get the tank and the pipes and the.
What do we?
Leaching.
If they want that permit, what specifically now are we looking for? For example,
I mean, it's,
elevations or
right
Just-
now it's land disturbance.
Yeah, it's just how much of a.
If it's 5,000 square
disturbance.
feet of land disturbance in total, then you have to get an administrative stormwater permit.
doesn't mean they have to do anything additional in terms of
It's just more for
drainage and
and stormwater control, so that you have the silt fence and erosion control, you're protecting the catch basins.
and you're taking
And
a
you-
look
along
at
the
it.
road.
I guess you're taking a look at it.
I mean, right now,
And you're protecting
I'll
other,
give you an
other
example.
homeowners.
South Street, there was a property that had a septic repair, the leach field was right on the edge of the road.
Yeah.
We had no jurisdiction at all,
Okay.
not even stormwater bylaw, because
Yeah.
it was under 5,000 square feet. There were 2 catch basins literally in front of the property, and there was a greater than 20% slope and within 300 feet of a catch basin, and there was no silt fence
Yeah.
when
I
they
remember,
started.
Yeah.
I went and checked with the Board of Health, and the plan that the Board of Health had on record had a silt fill fence required. It wasn't there, so
I remember that.
I called the engineer on it and said, the silt fence, and it got put up.
And this would help.
But this
us.
one, we really had no jurisdiction on, except for the MS4 and the town.
But
stormwater.
if we were to keep it to this 2,000, we would have jurisdiction.
Yeah,
They would have had
and
to
it won't be
automatically.
needless work for you necessarily.
Right.
It wouldn't be, yeah.
It wouldn't be a greater burden, but it would give us the oversight.
Yeah.
And I'm just
Oh,
worried
well, that's good.
more about the catch basins in town.
Well, yeah.
that are
I
gonna
mean,
be-
a lot of they fill up and clog up, and now that everything's coming with snow and all that in wintertime.
Yeah.
I mean, not saying that people are gonna do a lot
So
of
what
different stuff.
do we need a,
So,
we have
I
to
will add-
make a motion, or do you have other procedures?
no, you've already done the motion, so I will just plan for the next meeting to do a public hearing for
Okay.
discussion for changing the
To
regulations.
2,000.
So what,
Okay.
how would the regulation read?
The regulation change would be that any administrative stormwater permit under 2,000 square feet, or, no, over 2,000 square feet, within 300 feet of a catch basin or stormwater structure, or on a slope greater than 20%, would require an administrative stormwater permit.
I think that would be
And so that
perfect.
captures what we think,
Gives
would
us
be
a
helpful.
chance to
Yeah.
look at it.
Most of the things we're missing.
I think that
I
would be
mean,
perfect.
I don't think we need sheds that have to be regulated by us,
Yeah.
or somebody's patio, or typically a pool apron.
Mm.
Again, unless they're
Elevated
filling
septic
in,
system, so.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah,
right.
and that's where you can get the,
So
well, yeah. I think that'd be perfect.
So,
That's a good idea.
Carol had questions on ZBA. You asked about the two.
yes, yeah, there's going to be, two special meetings.
Yeah, there's two public hearings.
Two public hearings. One is on the transfer station.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And the other one is for Monkey Puzzle Tree Care on
Yeah.
East Street.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And what it is the zoning board has to approve the use. Well, this one's for use of what they want to do in that location. Sometimes it's because it's in a water protection district that it has to be looked at again. But the transfer station, it's a special permit because of the use in that area.
Aren't they using agricultural land?
No.
Nope,
I
Oh.
thought that's what it read.
nope, the transfer station, they're basically replacing the structure that's there, the building,
Finally.
and putting a new
They're
septic
putting up a
system in.
goddamn mansion.
So they're not
I
gonna
know.
disturb
I
any
didn't
other
think
area? Why
that
they need a
through
special
enough when I
variance?
voted
crazy.
for it. Yeah.
Because
There's no need for
that's
spending
I
that
don't
much
know why
money.
I said
residential, agricultural, residential farming district,
Yeah, that's.
and so to have a transfer station in a residential farming district
What
is
is
a
that?
special permit.
I'm surprised we can't
It's just like if they wanted a
Somehow.
commercial operation there, it's a
go
special
back
permit.
on that.
Okay, but we already have a transfer station there. Why do we need
overkill.
another one? Just 'cause
It's the
a-
same one, but they're
Oh,
just
damn.
working in that area, so they have to be permitted. to-
Okay, so they're not gonna disturb any other.
No,
area.
they're not
It'll be-
expanding it, they're not
Okay.
creating anything more. I've actually looked at where the septic system design is, and even though they flagged everything, the engineer designed it so it was outside the 100-foot. So they don't even have a filing for us, for jurisdiction wise.
Any plans on that yet?
They don't have the final one, well, I think after the zoning board
Alright.
hearing, the
Like-
final plans will be.
On
Sorry.
the East Street though, when I was at the selectmen's meeting, they took a vote on it, and I wasn't wondering why the selectmen took a vote. They voted no.
Well, in support of,
It's just what their opinion,
Right,
they're just
right.
offering
It-
an
it's-
opinion on it. Yeah.
gives feedback to the,
And we still haven't seen any detailed plans, have we, on what they want to do
there
there?
is a set that did finally come through to the building
Did it?
inspector.
Yeah.
And again, it's not much different than what we saw. They do have some more stormwater structures. They have swale to keep the water away.
Right,
But again, as the selectmen's concerns were more to deal with zoning
correct,
in that
Yeah.
district and what they were gonna be able to do and not do.
right. So they'll go to ZBA,
Right,
then here. Okay.
that's where those are. And that's all I had.
Just sign.
I'm gonna be on Zoom on the 21st. I just gave you the wrong date.
That's fine.
Okay.
It
Oh.
works.
And this Sunday, if it works out, I'm gonna pull the docks in.
Oh,
Is there a key for the shed now? I noticed there was a lock on the shed. You have it, or does Nick
I
have it?
don't, and I believe it's a combination, and I can get that. I'll find out for you.
okay.
I think it's.
I didn't really look at it. I just saw a lock
No,
on
I
the door.
I
Must
think
be a
it's one of
key.
those that has
Okay.
a 4-digit.
Nothing to,
Okay.
Yeah. Find
nothing
out
to
what it
sign.
is, send it to you.
Yeah,
And I have a
sign.
whole pile of stuff
Oh,
for you guys to
cool.
sign.
Here we go, yeah.
Just to keep my life easier. Put them on the top of the piles.
That's okay.
And I had a first. The lawyer for the house on North Elm Street sent the check FedExed overnight so that we would have it in time. And sent a return FedEx envelope to send the documents so they can go and record them.
Good idea.
I was like, wow. That was,
Nice.
Yeah.
I would like to publicly commend you for the way in which you take care of our business administratively.
Mm-hmm.
The way in which you do that. Thank you.
Doing a good job.
And I do have 2 requests for expenses. One's office supplies for the big thermal printer upstairs, and the other one is for 53G funds for the final review on Maple Street.
Come on over, Carol.
Yeah, they're,
Start down the
yeah, they're all done in
Okay.
packets that all that sticky note off. That was just my note through number.
I also want to report that I went to the Massachusetts Conservation
Oh, fall conference?
Fall Conference, and I had a
Good for
really
you.
good time. I did one on stormwater management, one on wetlands, one on soil, and one on trees.
For you.
All my fun stuff.
Good.
Did you go out alone?
Yeah.
For you.
I go everywhere.
Holy Cross, right?
In Devon's.
Oh, Fort Devens. Did you have lunch?
Oh, yeah. I get the gluten-free option.
Well, it'll be interesting to hear what the soil results are.
I figured that was gonna be the easiest way out of that one, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it is what it is, huh?
Cause I couldn't see them spending all the money on an ANRAD.
Yeah.
And then having the soils become an issue.
Yeah.
And so do it now and get it out of the way.
Thank you for that idea.
Yep. Yeah, I was gonna do the pulling the canoe launch last week, but I'm like, it's a nice weekend, so I'm like, there might be a couple of people might want to go out and
Still, yep.
hang out, go down the river. So I'll try for as long as it's not too wet. I'll try to see if I can pull them out.
So again, the non-jurisdictional after 1996 would
For a stormwater structure.
only, only.
But again, that's where my dilemma is it wasn't engineered, it was not permitted.
Right.
So, is it a drainage ditch or a stormwater structure?
Yeah.
I mean, if it's stormwater,
It sounds
that's
like
different than,
it sounds like a drainage ditch.
Me too. I would agree
It
with
sounds like
and if the drainage ditch, it's draining something for a reason.
Yeah.
And it's not to manage stormwater.
yeah.
good point.
And if those culverts you said big, then that's pretty. Somebody put a little bit of effort into that to do that.
Right.
Okay.
That's all I had.
So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good night, Steve.
Thank you, Steve.
Take care, guys.